Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video, continuing my series that looks at some of the loadout options available at different trader levels. And in this one, I'll be looking at items unlocked once you hit level 3 traders, which you unlock between level 22 and 32. At this stage in the game, things start to really open up and you end up with a lot of items unlocked that let you take your weapon builds to a very competitive level. And you get access to quite a few solid equipment items like great armored rigs and larger backpacks. Because there's such a huge range of weapons and items available, there's no way I could cover all of it in one video and keep it to a reasonable length. So for this one, I'll just be focusing on a few reliable weapon setups and going in depth with full builds that honestly rival some of the most expensive meta builds that you can build with maxed out traders. I'll cover other individual builds in future videos with some gameplay, but for this one I'll be focusing on the AK, the M4A1, and a new build for the SR25 that I think makes for a very nice option for a 7.62 rifle at this level. After the weapons, I'll go over some of the armor and equipment that I think everyone should be using from the level 3 traders, but for now we'll start by checking out a reliable, cost-effective AK build. The AKs are pretty much a staple loadout option for anyone looking for an effective weapon in Tarkov that doesn't cost over 200,000 rubles to set up. This build will work on any AK that you find, and the only thing you'll need to change is the muzzle device depending on what caliber you go with. For this one, I'll be building the AK from the ground up using one of the fully stripped AKs that you can buy at mechanic level 3. This build will be using the AKMN, but you can also get an AK-74M from mechanic level 3 as well. You'll need to buy a fresh dust cover and gas tube for this setup if you build it like this, but they're very cheap so it's no big deal. The reason I'm using the AKMN is to show off a brand new muzzle attachment in the 12.12 patch, the Kiba Arms AK308 adapter, which allows you to attach modern 7.62 muzzle devices to the AKM series rifles. Sadly, this doesn't seem to fit on the AK-103 or any of the other AKs, but you can make some really solid builds using this thing on the AKMN from Mechanic or any other AKM that you find or buy. After attaching the adapter, head over to Peacekeeper and buy the Thunderbeast 30CB muzzle, and then you can attach the Thunderbeast suppressor, which is now available for a wicked barter trade using Tagilla's boss hat that only costs around 30,000 rubles. If you're setting this up on an AK-74 or AK-103, you unfortunately can't do this, and you're instead going to be stuck with the JMAC RRD-4C muzzle, which is solid, but it's not as good as the Thunderbeast, and it's not a suppressor. Alternatively, if you have yourself an AK-101, you can use the CNC Warrior adapter to attach the Thunderbeast suppressor, but you'll need to use the 223 muzzle instead of the 30CB. Next up, the handguard is the X47 handguard from Skier, which has good stats and rails for attachments, including a sight mount. For the grip, I'm using an RK1 for good recoil, and then an X400 flashlight, which can be replaced if you prefer something else. For the sight, you can use whatever you want, but for this build, I've got a holographic sight selected. The stock attachment is the next point where these builds might differ depending on what AK you have for the build. On the AKM series, you can use the new Archangel stock, which I've shown in this build, giving you some pretty great stat bonuses all around. If you're using a newer AK like the 103 or the 74M, you can use the Zenit PT3 Classica stock with the adapter, or to save some money, you can simply toss a butt pad onto the basic stock, and you only sacrifice a couple of stat points to save about 20,000 rubles. Finally, the last two parts on this build are the MOE AK pistol grip and the new CSS charging handle for some ergonomics points. When this is all put together, you end up with 60 recoil and about 45 ergonomics for about 165,000 rubles using the AKMN build. Other AKs will differ a bit in stats and cost, and I'm not going to list every single one, but the overall price will be similar for pretty much all of them. Before moving on, I just want to point out two modifications for this build. First on the AKMN, swapping to a better suppressor. This one is the new KAC muzzle brake kit with the PRS QDC suppressor attached onto that. This is about double the price of the Thunderbeast total, but has better recoil stats, so if you want to check that out, it's quite a nice setup. Finally, if you really want a great suppressor on your AK-74M, you can buy the Reactor muzzle device from mechanic level 3, and then search the flea market for the Waffle suppressor and attach that to the AK. The only problem with this is the suppressor costs about 100,000 rubles on the market as of making this video, which then makes your AK cost just as much as a kitted out M4 build, which kind of defeats the purpose of running the AK in the first place. Before moving on, while making this video I saw that the RPK was going for very cheap on the market, so I figured it'd be good to show a quick build for the RPK as an alternative for anyone looking for a cheap but reliable 5.45 rifle. The RPK is currently going for only about 40,000 rubles on the flea market, which is a steal of a deal, and you can get this thing up and running for only around 100,000 rubles total if the price stays like this. First, you just want to add the PWS CQB 545 compensator from Skier, and then add a Zenit RK1 foregrip and some kind of tactical device device to the rails on the handguard. Next, add the MOE carbine stock and the rubber butt pad, and now all you need is your preferred sight and the build is more or less done. The RPK can be upgraded further with level 4 traders, but this simple build ends up with 52 recoil and 66 ergonomics for only about 100,000 rubles total. I expect the RPK to go up in price a little bit eventually, but as of making this video, it's at a really good price point. Next up for this video, I've got basically the ultimate M4A1 build from level 3 traders, which has gotten a bit of an improvement now that the Thunder Beast is so easy to acquire. This setup is definitely a tried and tested build, giving you solid recoil stats, decent ergonomics, and it'll work well both at close and long range thanks to the high fire rate and high muzzle velocity of the M4. Like the AKMN, I'm building this from the ground up, though if you have any M4s in your stash waiting to be modded, this build will work on those as well. First up, we need to buy the core pieces of the M4, starting with the ADAR 406mm barrel, the MK12 gas block, the Noveski upper receiver, and the Colt A1 buffer tube. Finally, the last piece is an M4 receiver from mechanic level 2, which is just a single slot red item listed as M4A1 for about 20,000 rubles. Slap all of these pieces together and you have the base of an M4 that's ready to be modded. The first addition here is the Thunder Beast suppressor and the 223 muzzle brake, which once again you can trade from Skier level 3 for one Tagilla boss hat. Next up is the handguard, the Alexander Arms MK10 handguard, which is one of the best options available and it's a solid price right from mechanic level 3. This one needs the Alexander Arms 10-inch rail to add attachments as well. On this build, I've gone with the RVG foregrip for balanced stats and the X400 flashlight, which can be replaced if you prefer something else. For the sight on this one, I'm using a combo that I'm finding amazing during this wipe, but this is up to preference and you can shave about 40,000 rubles off the build by just using a red dot sight instead. First, there's the JP 30mm mount, which fits the Burris TAC 30 scope onto the M4. After that, I also attach a delta point sight up top, and then you have something for every range, and it's really a great setup. Next up, the stock is the classic MOE carbine stock with the rubber butt pad, which is overall the best available for most builds that can use it. Finally, the last parts are the F1 skeletonized pistol grip and the Raptor charging handle for extra ergonomics points. You can also add an MBUS iron sight for one more point of ergonomics if you want. When this is all put together, I end up with about 46 recoil and 54 ergonomics for a total cost of around 250,000 rubles, or about 210,000 rubles if you just use a red dot sight. All around, this build is definitely going to get the job done, and it's one of my favorites to use. The last build that I want to look at in this video is for the SR25. I was wanting to do some kind of 7.62 build, and after looking at some new options for this rifle, I figured it would be a good one to showcase. It's expensive, but with the current meta leaning more towards hard-hitting rounds instead of rapid-fire low recoil setups, the SR25 and guns like it are in a really good spot right now. You can buy the SR25 for about 60 to 80,000 rubles on the flea market depending on the day, and for this build, I'm basically going to convert it into a knockoff RSAS to improve the stats and make it look pretty sweet at the same time. First up, the suppressor on this one is using the KAC muzzle brake kit and attaching the PRS QDC suppressor, which overall has some of the best stats for any 7.62 muzzle device. If you want to save a few bucks, the Thunder Beast that I've used on the other builds will fit here as well, but you'll have a slightly worse recoil stat overall. Next up, I'm swapping the handguard out for the RSAS handguard, which boosts your stats a bit, but most importantly, it allows you to attach the JP Gas System 6 for another stat boost, which only fits when you use this handguard as far as I can tell. This handguard needs RAHG rails from Mechanic, and then I've got the same attachments as the M4 build, an RVG foregrip and an X400 flashlight. For the scope setup, I've got the same combo I used on the M4, starting with the JP 30mm mount, then the TAC 30 scope, and finally a delta point reflex sight. Same story with the stock and pistol grip. I'm using the same options from the M4 build, an MOE carbine stock with the rubber pad, and then an F1 skeleton grip. Finally, the last part is just an ambidextrous charging handle for extra ergonomics points. The SR25 should come with backup sights for the extra ergonomics as well, but if not, you can buy them cheap at Mechanic. When this is all together, you end up with 71 recoil and about 41 ergonomics for a total cost of around 270,000 rubles. You can cut this cost down quite a bit by using the Thunder Beast suppressor or a cheaper sight, and if you want to make it a bit more budget friendly, I'd recommend making those changes. Finally, you can also swap to the longer barrel, but I'm going to leave that choice up to you. You get 5% better recoil and lose quite a few ergonomics, and it'll cost you almost 50,000 rubles extra. Now that you should have some solid ideas for a few weapon setups, I want to cruise over to Ragman's shop to go over some of my favorite armor and equipment to use at this level. First up is an armor that's actually sold at level 2 Ragman, but it was added after my last video, so I didn't get a chance to cover it, and this is the MMAC plate carrier. This armor is traded for one of the new sewing kits and one ripstop cloth, making it around 70,000 rubles or so to buy outright, or around 60,000 or less if you craft your ripstop at the lavatory. This armor is class 4 and is made of the best material in the game, so it repairs very well, but it has no stomach armor and a bit low durability, so keep that in mind. It's lightweight, it has 6 mag pouches, and overall it's just a great option. Next up is another brand new armor from Ragman level 3, the Strandhog plate carrier, which is traded for 1 sewing kit and 2 Cordura fabrics. This armor is very similar to the MMAC, but it has more space for mags and loot, and it's made of aluminum, so it doesn't repair quite as well. Overall, I myself prefer the MMAC because I'm a fan of lightweight, low coverage armors, but this plate carrier is quite good as well, and the trade is very similar. This one has stomach protection, so it'll keep you safer from shotguns, and overall it's a pretty solid choice for a nice price. Continuing on with the armored rigs, we have the TV-110, which is traded for 2 shampoo and 4 bleach, which can all be crafted at the lavatory, making this a pretty nice trade. The TV-110 is class 4 armor, it does not cover the stomach, and it is a little bit heavy, but it has low movement penalties and a lot of space to hold mags and loot, making it basically a second backpack when you have it equipped. You can only get 1 per reset, but this barter is a great way to get a nice armor that is perfect for big loot runs. Next up is the ANA Tactical M1 Armored Rig, which you can trade for 1 Kvass water and 4 Aquamarine waters, getting you a class 4 armor with a ton of slots for mags and loot and full coverage over the stomach. This barter is an absolute perfect way to recycle your Kvass and Aquamarine. Just drink the bottles down to 1 durability in the hideout to regain your hydration after raids, and then trade them for this armor, essentially doubling the value of those drink items. There's also the ANA M2 Armored Rig, which is traded for 3 round glasses and 3 coal pack face shields, all of which you can buy on the flea market for a surprisingly low price, totaling out to around 60 to 70,000 rubles. The armor has very similar protection compared to the M1 rig, but it's a bit lighter and it doesn't have the same big pockets for loot. Overall, this armor is quite a good choice, and as long as the price is good on the barter items, I'd definitely recommend this as a solid option. The final armors I want to go over here are some of the better class 5 options that you can get from level 3 traders now that you can't buy most of them on the flea market anymore. First up is the Gazelle armor, which has a nice barter trade at Ragman level 3 for 2 gold chains and 3 Majeka coffees, totaling around 100 to 120,000 rubles most of the time. The Gazelle is a tricky armor because it has a high armor class and durability and overall great movement stats, but it's a ceramic armor, meaning it doesn't repair well at all, so it's only really good for 1 fight before it's toast. I personally like the Gazelle a lot using this barter as a good way to access class 5 protection. Next up is the Korund armor, which is also available as a barter trade using 4 diaries at proper level 3. The Korund is kind of the opposite of the Gazelle. It's still class 5, but it has very low durability, it's very heavy, and it repairs pretty well. So while the Gazelle has good protection for 1 fight and then it's done, the Korund can kind of be reused for several repairs if you survive. I prefer the Gazelle, but the Korund is another okay choice for budget class 5 armor. Next up is the Reddit armor and the Gen 4 high mobility, which are nearly identical in many ways with very similar stats, price, and protection. The Reddit armor can be bought with cash for 230,000 rubles, while the Gen 4 trades for 7 GP coins, or about 220,000 rubles, so the price is pretty much identical. Both of them are kind of heavy and they have big movement penalties, but they both have good durability and they repair pretty well. Overall, I actually do like these armors for intense CQB maps like Factory, but they're kind of expensive, so I only recommend them if you have the money to spare. Finally, we have the TacTech barter trade for 5 gas masks and 6 flaming masks, and it's basically the same story as the Reddit and the Gen 4. This armor is quite good, and it's one of my favorites because it's lightweight and repairs very well. However, this trade ends up costing close to 250,000 rubles or more at the moment, so it's kind of expensive. If you can find a couple of these barter items on scavs and then buy the rest to save money, this is a great barter trade, but I'll leave it up to you whether you want to spend upwards of 250k on this rig. All of the rest of the armors that I left out of this video are simply because I don't think they're worth their current prices, or they just aren't really ideal choices in general. It's not that they're necessarily bad armors, but some of the barter trades just cost way too much compared to some of the others, and some of the standalone class 4 armors are just a bit too expensive for what you get, in my opinion. When it comes to helmets at level 3 traders, I would honestly say that there isn't really anything special here. You can already buy the ACH HC helmet at level 2, and I personally think the Fast MT is just way too overpriced to consider buying, and really the best helmet from Ragman level 3 is the LSH-Z with the face shield, but that's over 200,000 rubles as well. If you really want my recommendation for a helmet at this level, either stick with the 6B47 Bleach trade from Ragman level 1, or use the flea market to buy yourself a tan ULACH helmet, which in my opinion is just the best helmet in the game overall. Finally, I just wanted to say a quick few words about the backpacks at level 3 Ragman, starting with the Tri-Zip, which for 45,000 rubles is just the best bang for your buck when it comes to simple backpacks with solid space for loot. Moving up from here, there's the Mechanism backpack for about the same price, which has more spaces, but it's segmented in kind of an awkward way. This backpack is pretty amazing for small pieces of valuable loot, but it's pretty bad at fitting in gear from other PMCs, so it's a trade-off. The Terminator backpack is quite big and it doesn't have a really awkward barter trade, but the price of 88,000 rubles makes this one a bit expensive, and I would only recommend this if you have a lot of extra money to burn on big loadouts. Finally, there's the barter for the Attack 2 backpack at Ragman level 2, which is pretty good, but only until sugar starts to rise in price on the market. So use this up while it's a good price, but remember that any day now the price of sugar could skyrocket for moonshine production. Well, I think that about covers it for everything that I wanted to mention in this video. No, I didn't cover all the items available, but honestly not everything is really worth using anyways, and I just try to stick with recommending items that have a good price, good stats, and good utility. Hopefully this helps you craft some pretty solid loadouts for your runs once you unlock level 3 traders, and let me know how the raids go down in the comments if you try this stuff out. Also feel free to let me know what you like to set up from the level 3 traders for yourself so I have ideas for future content. Thanks for checking out the video. I've got links to my Twitch stream, Discord server, and Patreon page down below for anyone interested. And until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.